Hey, so here we are in our Think Numeracy Part 2, and we want to see how we can use math to figure out some of these numbers around all these statistics in the world. So you can see here that the number that I got for my world population is 7,046 million, which is actually 7,046,000,000, and this is Canada's population, which is about 35 million right now. Okay? So, part one says the book states out of 100 people, 27 have a television. Okay? So, when I want to use that number and the number in millions to figure out how many people in the world have a television, well, if 27 people out of 100 have a television, then that would mean that a certain number of people out of the world's population have a television, right? So what we've done here is we've set up a ratio, and we've said that that ratio is equivalent to another ratio. What we call that is we call that a proportion statement, because these two numbers are in proportion to each other, right? So what we can say is now we can fill in that 27 out of 100 is equal to whatever number we're looking for out of the world's population, which is 46 million. Okay? All right. So now the question is, how do we figure out what that question mark is, right? So that's where the math comes in. So this operation right here, when I write over, okay, what do we think to ourselves when we see something over something else? What's that operation? Is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? Well, you should remember from grade 8 that when we write fractions, it's actually division. This means 27 divided by 100. So this is question mark divided by 7046. Okay? So if I want to get rid of this division, how do I do that? Well, to get rid of division, I know that I can actually multiply both sides by 7046, right? So I multiply both sides by 7046. And this is what we call balancing an equation, right? If I want to get rid of this dividing by 7046, I know that now 7046 divided by 7046 cancels out, because 7046 divided by 7046 is 1, right? And I'm only allowed to do that, multiplying by 7046, if I do it to both sides, because that keeps my equation balanced. Okay? So now, the statement that sets up is that our question mark is equal to 7046 times 27 out of 100. Okay? So now, we can just go to our calculator and do 7046 times 27 divided by 100, and we have 1902, and we'll round it to the nearest whole number because we're already rounding to the millions, right? So that means that 1902 million people have televisions. Okay? So 1,902 million people have televisions in the world. Okay? So that number is still a pretty big number to consider, right? But when we want to think about how many people don't have a television, right? Well, remember, this is how many people we have in the world. This is how many people have a television. So that means to get our total, we can do 7046 minus 1902, and we get our answer, right? So 7046 minus 1902, and we get that 5,144 million people have no TV in the world. Okay? So that number is pretty interesting. That number is hard to fathom because that's a lot. And yeah, a lot of people do have TV. But this number is huge, and it tells us that 5,144 million, which means 5,144,000,000 people don't have a TV. Okay? So let's look down here. it says basically only 27% have television. So if your class was to represent the world, how many students out of the entire class would have a television? Well, I'm going to pretend like you have a class of 30 students. Okay? So you obviously have a different number there. But 27% is 27 out of 100, right? And I want to know how many people out of your class of 30 have a television. So we can do our thing where we want to get rid of that 30, so we multiply by 30 on both sides, right? So we end up with 30 times 27 divided by 100, and we get 8.1. So that means if your classroom was representative then of the entire world, only 8 of you would have a television. I'm sure that's not the case, so that's where this next question leads. Do you know anyone without a television, and why do you think that is? Okay?